This is a brief tutorial about how to use the math editor in TestNav, which is a program you will be using to take the park assessment later in the year. It's really simple to learn how to use the editor. You can see at the top there are several buttons, and if you allow the mouse to hover over the button, there'll be a script box that describes what the button does. So this first button you can see is the Clear All button. Anything you've written in this box will be cleared when you type the Clear All button. The second button is Undo and then Redo. So if you make a mistake and you hit the Undo button, it will delete the last thing you did. If you redo it, it will undo the undo. The next button is the backspace. And then we have our operators, the plus sign, subtraction sign, multiplication sign, and division sign. So those are pretty straightforward. When you get over to here, this first button here is going to allow us to make a fraction. Let's say, for instance, that we are answering a question in this text box and our solution is 1/2. When I click on that fraction button, you notice over here our box has changed. There's a box with a fraction bar and another box below it. So I can click in that box and type the number 1, and then I can either use my mouse or I can use the down arrow on my keyboard to get to the second box, and I can type the number 2. So now I've created the fraction 1/2. Now again, if I decide that that's not the correct answer, I could use one of these keys to either undo what I've done or just to clear it all and start from the beginning. The box next to the fraction is for making a mixed number. So if my solution is 3 1/2, I can type 3 in the larger box, and then again use either the mouse or the keyboard arrows to navigate and type the rest of the fraction. Now we also have a button that says y to the power of x, and when you hover on it, it says power. This is used when you need to write an exponential expression. So for example, if my answer is 7 to the 5th power, I would write the 7 in the large box for the base, and I would write 5 in the small box for the exponent. Now we can express 7 to the 5th power that way. The button next to that is the square root symbol. So if my solution to a math problem is the square root of 10, I can select the square root symbol and then type my number in the box that appears below it. You may also type expressions in the box below it. Alright, we're almost done. We have 2 more symbols. The equal symbol I know you're familiar with, but we also have the approximately equal to symbol. And if you're in Math 7-8 or Math 8, you should be familiar with this approximate symbol. Now if you notice, we also have a menu over here to the right for numbers, arithmetic and units, exponents and roots, relations, geometry, and groups. Let's take a look at those really quickly. Under numbers, you're going to find the same numbers that you could enter using your keypad, but you're also going to have the symbol for pi here. Remember, although it's irrational, pi is still a number. That's why it's on the numbers menu. When you scroll to arithmetic and units, when we expand that, you're going to see some of the same operators that we saw at the top of the screen: plus, minus, multiplication, division. We also have the plus or minus symbol. We have the negative sign, which is not the same as the subtraction sign. The multiplication dot, and the division slash, which I hope we will not use. We also have the symbol for money, degrees, and percent. Under exponents and roots, we will again see 2 buttons from our main menu, but we'll also see the cube root button. So if you need to use the cube root, that is where we find it. Under relations, we're going to have several symbols here. The equal symbol, not equal symbol, Similar, not similar, less than, greater than, approximately equal, not approximately equal, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, congruent, and not congruent. Those symbols could be important to you depending on what type of question you're asking, or answering rather. Two more to explore. Under geometry, you're going to find several symbols that you might need to state your solution. For example, if I'm talking about the measure of an angle, instead of writing the measure of the angle, I can use this symbol for my angle measure symbol. And then lastly, under groups, we have parentheses, brackets, braces, and the absolute value symbol.